the 31st of January 1900, Volume 3, Grace and Correspondence to It. After he came quite a few times, but always in silence, I felt a void and a pain, for I could not hear the most sweet voice of my Jesus, and he, coming back almost to content me, told me, "Grace is the life of the soul. Just as the soul gives life to the body, so does grace give life to the soul. However, in order to have life, it is not enough for the body to have the soul, it also needs food with which to nourish itself and grow to the proper stature. In the same way, it is not enough for the soul to have grace in order to have life, but food is needed to nourish her and raise her to the proper stature. And what is this food? It is her correspondence. So grace and correspondence to it form the links of the chain which lead her to heaven. And according to the measure in which the soul corresponds to grace, she keeps forming the links of this chain." Then he added, "What is the passport to enter into the kingdom of grace? It is humility. Through humility, by always looking at her nothingness and seeing that she is nothing but dust or wind, the soul will place all her trust in grace, so much so as to make it her master. And grace, taking dominion over all of the soul, leads her along the path of all virtues and makes her reach the summit of perfection." What would a soul without grace be like? It seemed to me that she would be like the body without the soul, which becomes stinking and spews worms and rot from all parts, so much so as to become an object of horror to the human sight itself. In the same way, without grace, the soul becomes so abominable as to be horrifying to the sight, not of men, but of God thrice holy. Ah, Lord, free me from such misfortune and from the abominable monster of sin. End of the reading. The 31st of January 1901, Volume 4. Jesus explains the greatness of the virtue of patience. As I was in my usual state, my sweet Jesus was not coming. Then, after much waiting, I saw him for just a little, and he told me, "My daughter, patience is superior to purity, because without patience the soul easily unbridles, and it is difficult for her to remain pure. And when a virtue needs another virtue in order to have life, the second one is called superior to the first. Even more, it can be said that patience is custody of purity. Not only this, but it is staircase to ascend to the mountain of fortitude, in such a way that if one went up without the staircase of patience, he would immediately fall from the highest point to the lowest. In addition to this, patience is seed of perseverance, and this seed produces branches called firmness. Oh, how firm and stable in the good she has started is the patient soul. She pays no attention either to rain or to frost or to ice or to fire, but all her attention is on bringing to completion the good she has started. In fact, there is no greater foolishness than that of one who today does some good because he likes it, and tomorrow he neglects it because he finds no more pleasure in it. What would one say of an eye which at 1 hour possesses sight and at another is blind, or of a tongue which now speaks and now is mute? Ah, yes, my daughter, patience alone is the secret key to open the treasure of virtues. Without the secret of this key, the other virtues do not come out to give life to the soul and to ennoble her. End of the reading. The 31st of January 1903, Volume 4. Effects of the Crown of Thorns of Jesus. After much struggling, I saw Blessed Jesus in my interior, but just a little, wearing a crown of thorns. I began to look at him and to compassionate him, and he told me, "My daughter, I wanted to suffer these thorns in my head, not only to expiate all the sins of thought, but to unite the divine intelligence to the human. In fact, the divine intelligence was as though dispersed in the human minds, and my thorns called it from heaven and grafted it once again. Not only this, but for those who were to manifest divine things, I obtained help, strength, and elucidation so that they might make them known to others." End of the reading. The 31st of January, 1918, Volume 12. Dissolving oneself in Jesus to be able to say, "What belongs to Jesus is mine." I was abandoning all of myself in Jesus when he told me, "My daughter, dissolve yourself in me. Dissolve your prayer in mine, so that your prayer and mine may be one single prayer, and one would not recognize which one is yours and which mine. Your pains, your works, your will, your love, dissolve them all in my pains, in my works, etc., so that they may mix one with the other and form one single thing, to the extent that you may be able to say, 'What belongs to Jesus is mine,' and I may be able to say, 'What is yours is mine.' Imagine a glass of water which is poured into a big container of water. Would you be able to distinguish afterwards the water of the glass from the water of the container? Certainly not. Therefore, for your greatest gain and my highest contentment, repeat often in whatever you do, 'Jesus, I pour this into you, so that I may do not my will but yours,' and immediately I will pour my acting into you." End of the reading. The 31st of January, 1928, Volume 23. Round in the Divine Will. Assault at the Divine Majesty. Attractions of littleness, the secret of it. How the human will is nauseating. Example. I was gathering all together all the acts of the divine will done in creation, the seas of the celestial Queen, those of my beloved Jesus. In sum, all the acts that the divine fiat has issued outside of itself. So I was recapitulating everything in order to bring them before the height of the Supreme Majesty, so as to make through this the final assault at it, and force it to give me its kingdom on earth. But while I was doing this, I thought to myself, I am little, I am just an atom. How can I bring the vastness of the heavens, the multiplicity of the stars, the immensity of the light of the sun, and then all the seas of my mama and those of Jesus, which are endless? So does my little atom not remain lost in the midst of so many works so great? I believe that all heaven will smile in seeing my littleness, wanting to make this assault at the latest device of its round in the divine will. In fact, since I am little, I get not only lost but also knocked down by even just one work of the divine volition. Therefore my assault will be without effect, and perhaps it will serve to make the whole celestial court smile behind my poor back. But while I was thinking this, my sweet Jesus came out from within my interior, and all tenderness told me, "My little daughter, your littleness has such attraction as to draw the attention of all heaven to see what your littleness wants to do and can do. To see a grown-up person do great things does not earn attention, nor does it bring joy. But if one sees a little girl doing the same great thing, she causes such amazement and surprise that all would want to see the great work of the tiny little one, which does not happen if the same work were done by a grown-up person. If you knew how the divine gaze and that of the whole of heaven fixes on you, in seeing you gather all together as though in a hurry, all the works of the divine will, in order to launch an assault at your Creator, carrying his very weapons to wage the holy war on him, to make him surrender his kingdom. It can be said that your hurrying, your gathering everything, is the true smile of heaven. It is the new feast that your littleness brings to the celestial fatherland, and all await the assault of the tiny little one. But do you want to know where lies the secret of your strength in your littleness? That while you remain lost, now in the light of the sun, now in the midst of the stars, now inside my seas and those of my celestial mama, your atom does not stop. It frees itself and enters the field again to make its recapitulation of all the works of the divine fiat. All the secret is enclosed in it as it moves you, invests you, winds you, in order to make you go around and to make you enclose all of its acts, so that it itself, through your littleness, may have the assault made at itself, so as to be drawn to come to reign upon earth. What can the atom, animated by my will, not do? It can do anything, because it becomes an act in the midst of all of its acts of divine will. And this is enough to be able to make of all its acts one single act and say, everything is mine, and everything must serve me in order to snatch the kingdom of the divine fiat upon earth. After this, I was thinking of how much evil the human will has done to the poor creatures, and therefore I abhor it. I do not want to know it ever again, and not even look at it, because it is too nauseating. But while I was thinking of this, my beloved Jesus moved in my interior and told me, my daughter, the human will on its own is nauseating, but united with mine is the most beautiful thing I created. More so, since the divinity could never issue anything created by us that would be nauseating. United with ours, the human will would have the continuous motion of good, of light, of sanctity, of beauty. And through our continuous motion that never ceases, it would have been the greatest prodigy of creation. Our motion would purify it from any shadow of stain. It would happen as to the sea. Because it murmurs continuously and has its perennial motion, its waters are pure and crystal clear. Oh, if the waters of the sea were still, the waters would lose the purity and become so nauseating that no one would look at the sea. The waters would be so dirty and filled with filth that the ships would not be able to cross the sea, and no one would make the fish of water so putrid his food. So the sea would be a burden for the earth and would cause the contagion of all maladies to the human generations. On the other hand, by its mere murmuring and having its continuous motion, how much good does it not do to creatures? And while it hides who knows how much dirt inside its bosom, by its murmuring it has the power to keep it buried at the bottom, and it masters the purity of its waters, pure and emptied of any dirt. Such is the human will, more than sea. If the divine motion murmurs in it, it is beautiful and pure. All evils remain buried and without life. But if my will does not murmur in it and does not have its first motion, all evils arise again, and from the most beautiful it becomes the ugliest, such as to arouse pity. Another image is the human nature. United with the soul, it is beautiful. It sees, it hears, it walks, it operates, it speaks. It does not stink. Separated from the soul, it becomes putrid. It stinks in a horrible way. It is disgusting to look at. It can be said that it can no longer be recognized. Who caused such remarkable change from a body that is alive to a dead body? The lack of the murmuring of the soul, of its continuous motion that had primacy in the human nature. As such was my will placed for the humour will, as soul from which it was to receive life is continuous murmuring. So, as long as it stays united with mine, it is a prodigy of life, of beauty. Separated from mine, it loses legs, hands, words, sight, warmth, life, and as a consequence, it becomes so horrid, more than a cadaver, as to deserve to be buried inside the deepest abyss, because its stench is unbearable. So, one who does not stay united with my will loses the life of his soul. Therefore, he can do nothing good, and everything he does is without life. End of the reading. There are no more readings today. Also the end of January. So if you're listening to this in 2025 and you have a subscription, there will be no more notifications, because with this reading, the entire 12 months has now been recorded for you. And I will have a link down the bottom so that tomorrow, on the 1st of February, you can still get the readings. You just have to do a little bit to find them. But it isn't hard. It's been wonderful keeping you company. Thank you so much for keeping me company. God bless you. Have a blessed day.